Okay, we're back. We're live with the 4 o'clock rock here on Wednesday, my favorite show, Energy, the State of Energy, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. Here we are. And special guest to tell us about what's going on at Hawaiian Electric Companies is Colton Ching, Vice President of Energy Delivery. Fabulous, important.
Yeah, Jay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Been a while.
Yep.
So glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So we got a press release about the PSIP, and I'm so glad you came down so you could explain what it is and where it fits in the landscape of energy development.
Okay. Well, the power supply improvement plans that we filed on April 1st is something that we did in response to an order that we received from the Public Utilities Commission back in November. What the PSIPs are is a comprehensive plan for all 3 of our utilities, all 5 islands that we serve, to lay out a 30-year resource plan until 2045. And that's a very, very important, very challenging undertaking, but it lays out a view, a glimpse of the future for energy resources over the next 30 years.
This is very important.
It's very important.
This is the one that puts meat on the bones.
It is very important. It puts meat on the bones, and it's especially important since the passage of Act 97, which changes the RPS law that requires 100% RPS in 2045. And so it was a new challenge for us, a new effort to look at how do we build our system out, how do we change the grid between now and 2045 that meets this new RPS requirement. It was a challenging endeavor. It was fun and exciting.
How do you look around the corner for 30 years? You know, it's not easy.
It is. But as much as this was an effort to look out, to get a glimpse into the next 30 years, and I can speak to some of the things that we found in our analysis, in our studies, the real value in doing this exercise and looking at what the possible futures could be for the next 30 years is that it gives you some insights into and some directions into what's really important for the utilities to do in the next 5 years, and to make plans for the next 5 years that takes into account where the future could be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, to make sure that the actions that we're proposing to do in the near term are no regret actions, things that make sense regardless of where the future takes us. And that was part of what we did in this PSIP.
So, but it also, from what you say, it sounds like this is not the kind of thing where you lock it in amber for 30 years. You take snapshots of it, say every 5 years, and see, well, maybe you want to tune up this and fix that and rethink that and so forth. Otherwise, you might be locked on a path that doesn't flow with changes.
Right. So you're absolutely correct. So while we did our filing on April, we said, or we informed the commission that we really see this as a continuous process. And even though we've put forward what we think is a good set of plans over the next 30 years, the world that we live in now is so dynamic. Things are changing so rapidly, especially here in Hawaii, whether it's technology, whether it's policy, whether it's economics. Just in the last year, so many things have changed. And so it would be foolish to try and plan for the next 30 years and not look at the plan ever again over that period. So what we want to do, and what we're already starting to do, is to continue to look at our 30-year plans, to update them for things as things change. So we see this as a continuous process for us to always keep our 30-year plans fresh, and doing so not because we think we can make these precise predictions of what's going to happen for the next 30 years, but to keep these plans fresh so that we have better confidence and certainty that the things we do this year and next year and the year after that are good things to do and good steps to do.
And you're always in tune, so to speak.
And we're always in tune.
Yeah, so can you give us a précis of what, I know it's a long filing and we only have a few minutes, but can you give us a précis of what's in there? What does it look like when you look at it closely?
Sure. So I'll give my 30-second version of a 1,300-page document.
There you go. We love to do this on Think Tank. Challenges for our guests.
So in our power supply improvement plans, we laid out plans that achieves 100% RPS in 2045. And in fact, it actually exceeds the RPS law. What we set out at the very beginning was to develop resource plans that took us to true 100% renewable energy. So all generation in 2045 comes from a renewable resource. So we've done that. What we've done is create a portfolio of renewable resources over the course of the years that is as balanced as can be, because although renewables are great and wonderful resources, relying too heavily on one resource or one technology can add risks to the state.
So you have a
and to the
number of
economy.
them working and you try to balance them together so
Exactly.
you're not totally dependent on anything you shouldn't be totally dependent on.
Correct. In our plans, we have the islands of Molokai and Lanai going to 100% renewable generation in 2030. So well ahead and advance of the state RPS law. We have the island of Maui and Hawaii Island at 100% renewable energy in 2040, also ahead of the RPS requirements. And we have Oahu, the largest island electrically and in terms of the electric use, at 100% renewable generation in 2045. So not only are we meeting our RPS requirements, this new change to the RPS law, we're actually exceeding them both in timing as well as in magnitude. So we set that out as a goal. We found a way to do that in a way that we think makes sense. A critical element in that journey along the way is to keep our costs and our customer bills reasonable along the way. And we think a critical element to do that is the use of liquefied natural gas and modernized generation during that transition. Because this transition is going to take us over 20 years before we get to 100%, especially here on Oahu. And so we found a very, very important and a very critical role for liquefied natural gas to help manage our customer bills and rates, and at the same time dramatically reduce the carbon emissions that we generate in providing energy to our customers, well below what we would do if we remained just on oil. And to do it in a way that doesn't divert us away from that pursuit of renewables. In fact, we do it ahead of the requirements.
We got to keep our eye on the ball.
Yep.
But it sounds like you go island by island and you drill down resource by resource.
Yep.
And you look at it in periods of years or even annually to see how much progress we're making about this thing on this island in that year.
Yep.
It's complicated. No wonder it's 1,300 pages.
It is. And there's a lot of other elements to our plans that are equally important. We know our customers are very interested and have a strong desire to install their own distributed generation systems, primarily solar. So we have a very big component of our resources around distributed photovoltaics. It amounts to something over 370% more than what we had back in 2014
That's
when
huge.
we first took on this power supply improvement plan. And we not just include them as a resource, but we've really leveraged all of the learnings we've done over the last year in the integration of rooftop solar, and have included in our plans the modifications, the upgrades to our distribution system to accommodate that, put in the controls and communications, as well as take advantage of this sort of leading edge capabilities of rooftop solar systems, their inverters, to do a lot of the functions that we need so that they are more compatible with the grid at the same time. So all of that's folded into our plans as well, in addition to the larger systems, right, the large wind farms and things like that.
Like utility scale photovoltaic and all that.
Correct. So
Geothermal part of it?
Another one of our findings that was very, very interesting is that we found that firm dispatchable renewables like geothermal, like biomass, play a really critical role in increasing the levels of renewables throughout our system. Now, they are primarily resources on Maui and the Big Island, but they still contribute to our overall renewable use and can do so at very competitive pricing. It's a cost-effective way to add renewables. And at the same time, because it's a firm dispatchable resource, it can substitute for a lot of our thermal generation. It allows us to retire or deactivate and otherwise not use fossil fuel generation because it is controllable in a way that wind and solar alone are not. And because it doesn't require energy storage in order to make use of that energy. It can provide that energy and capacity
Yeah,
in a very,
that's why
very
it's best.
cost-effective way.
Yeah. Well, what a project, huh?
Yeah.
It took you several months at least.
Yeah.
And now all we have is this is resting in the desk of the PUC. They have to approve it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how long it's going to take. Do we know how long it's going to take?
There's no set schedule of what happens next or what are the next set of steps. The Public Utilities Commission does have a docket for this effort. There are 20 some odd parties that are involved in it, so it's a very inclusive
So they get
docket.
a chance to comment.
Sure, and we've actually included the parties and interveners in the process that we've gone through to now. So they participate in providing input, providing cost information. We took some of the state and county agencies that are involved in this docket. We involved them in our planning effort directly in our working meetings. So it was a very informative process, not just for the stakeholders involved, but also for us as well and the utility to learn from others. I don't know where this will go in terms of a time frame or the specific next steps, but from Hawaiian Electric's perspective, we see this as an effort that's continuous. So even though this docket may be going on for a period of time, we're not going to just rest on our heels and just stop planning. We're going to continue to plan our system.
Sure.
And we actually, in our filing, we told the commission that we really want to do this body of additional work, and we plan to do that and complete it and submit it to the commission.
As a
in August.
sort of a secondary submission.
As a next tranche of supplemental work that we wanted to do.
One elephant in the room question is, what about the merger? Is the plan assume there is a merger? Does the plan have alternative possibilities if there isn't a merger? How do you handle that?
So what we needed to do was to develop power supply improvement plans that would serve our company, would serve our customers, and would provide that guiding path for us, for our regulators, regardless of the commission's decision on the merger. Right? We didn't want to make it dependent upon that.
Right.
Having said that, there were certain elements in the plan that we found very, very beneficial to customers that could only happen if the merger was approved. And so as we developed the power supply improvement plans, as we put together 30-year plans, we made sure that we had plans where they did include components that were conditioned upon the merger, where it relied on the credit rating and the financial backing of a merged company. We also provided alternative plans that had components that did not rely on the merger from occurring. So we had a plan to go with regardless of the commission's decision.
And this is the challenge of being a regulated company. You have to deal with those possibilities. It's just good corporate thinking to have alternatives on the deck.
We think so.
Thank you, Colton Ching. I want you to know that we would like to see your plan approved. We would like to see you start implementing that plan ASAP. That's what we would like to see.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colton. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to our regular show in 1 minute.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hittel, and I host a show, Climate Change Beyond Outrage. In it, we go beyond outrage to look at solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. Join me every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. See you then.
Aloha, my name is Jeff James, and I'd like to invite you to watch my show, The Military in Hawaii. It'll be shown every Friday at 11 a.m. here on thinktech.com. Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm the host of Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. We air live on the internet and also on Oceanic Channel 16. I'd invite you to come for a fresh new show every Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock. I try to bring on guests that give us a different viewpoint on aspects of sustainability in Hawaii, as well as trying to unpack some of the difficult concepts of measuring and achieving sustainability, particularly with regard to sustainable economic growth and prosperity in Hawaii. Please join us every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. Mahalo, aloha.
Aloha, my name is Reg Baker, and I'm the host of Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. Business in Hawaii is a program that is positive stories about business in Hawaii. We're tired of hearing the negativity and why it's the wrong place to have a business. We talk about the positive reasons for having a business in Hawaii and how to be successful. We broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Aloha, this is Maria Mera, and I'm here to invite you to my bilingual show, Viva Hawaii on Think Tech Hawaii, every other Monday at 3 p.m. We're here to inform, motivate, and entertain you. Join us. Hola, soy María Mera y estoy aquí para invitaros a mi show bilingüe Viva Hawaii en Think Tech Hawaii cada 2 lunes a las 3 de la tarde. Estamos aquí para informaros, motivaros y entreteneros. Apuntaros.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to Think Tech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, offering lifelong learning from passionate hosts and fascinating guests ready to explore and explain Hawaii's place in the 21st century. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
Hello, I'm Stephen Katz, and I'm the host of Shrink Wrap, which comes to you live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and then it's repeated again whenever you want if you go to the website. On our show, we will be talking to all different kinds of therapists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, people who talk about the mind, the brain, and about different ways to find happiness. I myself am a marriage and family therapist in practice here in Hawaii, and I hope you will join us because I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to learn, and it's a great ride. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech. This show is so very dear to my heart. We talk with artists of various different ilk here about the process that they go through for their art. So we talk about what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they do it. And it's a show that is inspiring. This is what I hear from people all the time. And a show that will teach you something, sometimes something about yourself. I hope you'll join us. The show is Center Stage. It's on Think Tech every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
Okay, 4 o'clock rock. Woo. Wednesday, the State of Clean Energy, and our special series about energy efficiency. And we have Ray Starling, he runs the operation. We have Michael Chang, he's right next to Ray Starling. Michael is the chief architect, the chief, what? Innovation architect. That's more important than a regular architect, actually.
Absolutely.
We have Carolyn Carl, she's the deputy program manager of operations. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, and you know, the title of the show is It's More Than Just Light Bulbs.
That's right.
We're going to dig deep here. We have a series of shows about energy efficiency, and this is the first one. So in this one, we have to sort of lay the foundation about why we're doing this and what does it mean. And I guess the you know, the first question is, what is energy efficiency as a company and as a phenomenon? And the only person who can answer that with the full panoply is Ray.
Well, energy efficiency is the thing that you want to do first before you do any renewable energy, and you get rid of all of the waste of energy before you start trying to fill in with generation of some sort. And efficiency is the way to go. When you take a kilowatt hour off the grid by screwing in a high efficiency light bulb, that kilowatt hour never comes back. It might be replaced by something, but that kilowatt hour is gone. You don't have to deal with it anymore. So you want to mash that down to the very smallest amount of power that you actually need. So then you don't have to do quite as much generation. So that's my view.
Okay. And Hawaii Energy, I meant to ask you Hawaii Energy. What is Hawaii Energy? An organization, and just, you know, the basic parameter of it is that since the utility generates power, and since, you know, we want to minimize the generation of power, there's sort of an inherent conflict between generation and non-generation. So we have two separate entities, one for generation, one for efficiency. What is Hawaii Energy then, Ray?
Well, Hawaii Energy is the program that the state set up to actually handle the efficiency side of things, to get rid of any perceived conflict that might have been. But that's done here and elsewhere. But in many states, the utility still has the efficiency program.
This is better, though, don't you think?
We think this is very good, and we were the first third party to actually be contracted by the state to do the program back in 2009, and we think that the setup that was done then is pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, that's great. We have, you know, we're leading. Hawaii is leading in little ways and big ways. This is one of the ways in which it is leading, that it separates these things, and that we work. I know you guys work 2 o'clock in the morning because nobody else should come up with the creative ideas, the architectural innovation, unless he's working or she's working at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so let's go further. What has happened since 2009 with Hawaii Energy to make us more efficient, okay? Who wants to answer that? I never promised you a rose garden.
So, you know, as the Efficiency Energy Conservation Program, we have grown tremendously over the last 7 years or so. It's gone so much beyond just the money for stuff, in the sense that, you know, we act as a resource. So not only have we achieved our savings goals year on year, helping businesses, residents better understand their electricity usage, we have a full-fledged team that is working day and night, as you say, to really to go to the level with the customer, allowing them to internalize what their energy usage is, what are their options, short-term, long-term, for how they can achieve, you know, lasting savings and ultimately save money sustainably, right?
Yeah.
So. We've done a lot of really cool things I think Michael can talk about. We're using data now to let people understand, you know, what their choices are in a changing technology world. So
I think
technology is the important word here.
Yeah, and use of data. I think, you know, one thing that we have on our website right now is what's called peer group comparison. Or right now you can go on our website, you can put in your information from your account, and you can actually compare your usage with other ones in your neighborhood.
You keep an account on me.
Yes.
So you analyze it,
right,
and then I know where I stand vis-a-vis other users, and I know whether I'm doing it right or not, and whether I could be saving more money and contributing to the efficiency.
Absolutely. It gives you the choice. Right now, if you go and buy a car, you absolutely know that I could buy a car that achieves this kind of mileage or this mileage. It's your choice, it's your lifestyle. Same with your home now. Before, you wouldn't know. Step outside your house, am I average? Am I not average? Using this tool, you can determine that, hey, I'm better than average. That's great. or I'm really worse, so let me pursue, Hawaii Energy to see if I can do better. So that kind of tools. And I think we've also using, the big data type stuff. We're using the time of use data. I think the HECO's putting in the smart meters. They're providing data that has some usage profiles. We can use that data to target individuals that may have air conditioning. So we can be more cost effective. We can deliver the right messages. So using that kind of information to target versus just blanketly providing programs for everyone.
Yeah. So aside from rooting out inefficiencies like getting rid of that second refrigerator that we hear about, or a million other things in your home and business that are inefficient, you're also looking at ways to move ahead using the technology. And what inherent in your discussion, Michael, is that you can get the data because you're essentially part of the PUC. You work under the PUC.
Right.
So if you wanted the data of exactly what's going on out there, you can get it.
Correct.
And therefore you can find new technologies, new information technologies to make us understand better exactly how efficient we are and make us more efficient. This is important. And I would gather, to go to your answer, Caroline, I would gather that this is a rolling stone. And I mean, a gathering, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm gathering about the gathering, yeah. So as you go forward, the technology, not only here, but elsewhere around the country and the world, improves about efficiency, and you have the data, you can give us more and more, what do I call it, architectural innovations, let's call it that.
Choice.
Absolutely. And I think too, and expanding things, I think, for decision makers, for the policy makers, things like weather, how does that correlate? So if there is an increase in usage next year, was it people acting, less efficient, or was it because the weather affected the usage? I think that kind of stuff we can do a lot better job at now. We can tie things to water usage and gas usage. I think in the past, these data sets are all separate, and now we have the opportunity to kind of bring them together, because water usage is actually a great indicator of how many people are in the home, more so than electricity and gas sometimes. And so it is combining all the data that we have and being able to, again, target and reduce all the consumption, not just necessarily electricity.
Yeah. And all this feeds in with the grid, and the whole thing becomes a data experience. I see myself, not today, but soon enough, with a kind of dashboard.
Sure.
An electronic dashboard, and it's blinking at me, because all effective dashboards blink at you, but not a lot, because we don't want to waste the energy with too much blinking.
Oh, if it's blinking, it's off more of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Blink a lot.
We don't know. So Ray, I mean, the big problem here, as I see it, is this is essentially voluntary on the part of the public. I mean, you can't go out there and find Mr. and Mrs. homeowner and smack them on the side of the head. You've got to get them to come on board. How has it been since 2009? And is there a change in the way you can deal with that? I mean, is there an enforcement process, or is it merely, public relations?
Well, that's such an easy question. I'm going to toss it over to Caroline, who does most of this through her transformation program.
So I think you're absolutely right. It's hard, and it's hard to give away free stuff too, for that matter. We've had a lot of evolutions of that as well. I think one of the main roles of our transformational program is to build energy literacy, because with an understanding, as like Michael was saying, just about who am I compared to what someone else is doing? What is it that's affecting that? What are the variables? The weather, the runtime, all of these different things that come into play. It can be incredibly confusing. And so both on the residential and the commercial side, we see it as our responsibility to get that information out there in a variety of ways. So it's not just a workshop you attend and get a certification, but it's online training. It's through survey work. There's all these different layers of how you build that capacity, and it's an ongoing learning experience for us. But we've had some great successes in terms of reach, and the other side of that is who participates. We have to focus on areas that are harder to reach, that are historically have more barriers to be able to take advantage of these programs.
How about incentives I don't know if you have incentives like this, but you must, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I know what you're thinking about. You think about incentives. You think about ways to get people to buy into this program, okay? And what kind of incentives do you get cooking now, and what kind of incentives do you contemplate at 3 in the morning?
Okay. So I think, talking about, the technologies, when you mentioned things that, I think a lot of people do get caught up in the stuff. And I think, when you're in this business for a while, you realize that the barriers to implementing energy efficiency are non-technical. There's rarely a situation where you get in where you go, I don't know how to save energy with this light or this chiller or this operation. That's not the case. It's how do we buy it? When am I going to sell this building?
Yes.
You know, why should I do this? Because my
Right.
tenant pays the bill. I
Exactly.
think that's the thing that where the program, I think was mentioned earlier, Money for Stuff, is we're going away from that. It's more consultative, it's more part of planning, this buzzword now is strategic energy management. Get the decisions that you make, get your planning, all, you know, incorporating energy and water and sustainability, all those, you know, actions that will help your business a long term, I think. So that's really where we're going, you know, and that's where we're trying to get, you know, we're getting away from Money for Stuff. I think if you want stuff, LED lighting. I mean, LED lighting is probably the biggest thing that we're going to see in the near future that's going to cause, you know, dramatic reductions. I mean, you've got them in your studio.
That's what we do. That's why you're so cool.
Absolutely. So, you know, the more adoption of LED lighting as the price comes down, as the quality gets better, as, you know, the inventory turns over in the marketplace, you're going to see, you know, a lot of reduction basically from a technology.
See, Carolyn, it's more than just
Light bulbs.
light bulbs.
It's more than just light.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk about how you manage this in terms of metrics, how you get them, what you do with them, how impressive are they now, how impressive do you think they'll be in the future. We never promised you a rose garden. We'll be right back. This is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. You'll see.
Hello, everybody. I'm IC Davidson. Thanks for tuning in to Think Tech Hawaii. One of the things that we do here, or the thing that we do here, is promote civic engagement in Hawaii. What does that mean? We want to talk about things that people want to hear about, and we want you to engage us and be part of that conversation. One of the ways that you can do that is by joining in during our live show via Twitter. How do you do that? Well, you get on the interwebs and get Twitter, get an account, and mention us if you have a question. What you'll do is you tune into our show live, tweet us questions, and our hosts and guests will address them accordingly. It's really easy, it's really fun, and I think that your participation in what we're doing here will help us continue the dialogue on very important issues that we're trying to cover. Sustainability, clean energy, you name it, we're on top of it. We want you to be part of what we're doing, because together we'll be able to make things change. Thank you for watching Think Tech Hawaii, thinktechhawaii.com, weekdays 12 to 5 p.m. That was weird.
Bingo, we're back. Wow, that was an interesting break. You know, the problem, I'm sorry for you guys out there in video land, is you can't see the breaks. Only we get to see the breaks. But we tried, you know, to improve in the next segment, you know, on basis of what we discussed in the breaks. What did we discuss in the breaks, Michael?
So I think we discussed metrics. We talked about, you know, what numbers. And I think the one number that a lot of people have heard in the past is the 4,300 gigawatt hour goal for energy efficiency in 2030. So that's a big number. So in context, we could eliminate the usage of all the neighbor islands and roughly 20% of Oahu. That's 4,300 gigawatt hours. It's huge.
Yeah, wow.
So in context, that you know, it gets a little scary. But what's happened is really right now, we should be somewhere around, I think it was what, 12 million kWh, or 12, what did we say? 12 billion, 12.7 billion kWh is what the plan was in 2008 for us to be in 2014. We're consuming right now 8.9. So there has been, you know, a combination of natural market forces, things like flat screen TVs and new computers and that kind of thing that have naturally brought down the energy consumption. Yeah. We've got program actions that drive you to bring things forward, change your air conditioners, change your lights. And then you've also had the contribution of photovoltaic, you know, generation that has been in there. So all of those things together, we really are at a number where we can have a modest growth over the next 20 years. To get to the number. Again, everything that you add, every new building, you have to really make up all that additional growth with savings.
Yeah,
and
sure. Absolutely. And you know, it's like Colton Ching was saying, it's all dynamic, it's all changing all the time. You can't possibly imagine. I mean, so a few years ago, not too many, it was after 2009, I think, we got the iPhone, changed the world. Well, there could be another thing like that, who knows? And it could be a real energy user too, but valuable. So we have to be able to change. So you wanted to say something. I knew it. I felt it. Okay, then I'll ask you a question. Okay. Colton Ching was in here, and he was talking about the PSIP. I have not read the PSIP. Maybe you guys have, but in there it's got to be energy efficiency. And my question to you is, how do you dovetail all of his, kind of evolution of the various resources into 100% renewables in the next 30 years, count them, actually 29 years and counting, okay? So where does energy efficiency play, either in that plan or parallel to that plan, so that we get where we need to go? In other words, if I just looked at energy efficiency, what would your goal be for 29 years?
I think it would be the continuation of, you know, we have the whole program and efficiency has been structured around this 30% through conservation and efficiency by 2030. So, you know, we could continue with the path that we're on. I think collectively, as a program, we realize that it's a dynamic environment, and our role will continue to shift as the needs of the utility shifts. And if there are program design needs that are in terms of, you know, shifting load or, you know, things like that that are coming online, that, you know, certain types of equipment, all the stuff where we're touching customers and helping them reduce their usage, but there's an added benefit, I think we'll continue to see that come together. And, you know, we'll as a program, want to support whatever is the most, is the needs of the utility for the overall savings.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Jay, I think the important part I keep discussing is one, flexibility. I think with the time of use rates that we'll propose and will be, you know, in the near future coming on to allow the moving of loads during the day to fill the solar day to help us, you know, get all this more renewable energy and reduce the spillage and all that kind of stuff. That's where our programs have to be flexible, because a lot of times when you do a capital upgrade, you have the opportunity to add storage, to add some controls, to change your behavior, to move your operations to nighttime. That is the decision point. And I think that's how we start lockstep with HECO. You know, what do they need? We need load off this area. Let's go after that area, so maybe the transmission line doesn't have to be built.
So it's a kind of partnership.
Absolutely. Sure.
Very interesting. Where does cars play in this? I'm working on a movie about the car show. You know, there's a certain number of electric cars and hydrogen cars, and more manufacturers are getting into these cars. You know, and more salesmen are trying to sell them, and more people are buying them. So, I mean, it's not as much as you want, but it's plenty, I think.
Sure.
And the question is, so that's one of those things where we can't, exactly predict where electric cars are going to go, but we know they're in the landscape. How do you deal with that from the energy efficiency point of view? How do you see that integrating with your programs?
EE and EV together.
So I think we've already done awareness kits, and so when people bought electric vehicles, they had a kit to help reduce their water usage, reduce their lighting usage to kind of offset. So roughly 8 kWh a day is the additional load that an EV puts onto a home. And we've done calculations where if you add solar water heating, if you do some air conditioning upgrades, you change all your lights to LED, you can pretty much offset that 8 kWh from that vehicle. And so, again, you have opportunities like that, again, awareness, what can I do? And there's also some fear. I mean, some reasons why electric vehicles aren't being purchased is there is a perception that, wow, that's going to be like 4 times my electric bill, which won't be the case.
Not
realistic.
Right. But the really important thing is that you mentioned batteries before, and electric vehicles use batteries. And that kind of storage capability, while it's small right now, relatively small, it could grow to a point where you could use half your car battery storage to be flexible in terms of when you take power from the grid.
You're connecting.
And when
You're
you give it
connecting
back.
your car and your house and everything.
Yes, the technology is already there. Now, it's not widespread, and it needs to be properly metered, so you know how to charge the usage one way or the other, whether it's going on the grid or coming off the grid. But that's the big play for electric vehicles, in my opinion.
Isn't that true? I mean, I get Greg Murphy of Blue Ion Batteries was in here yesterday, which is a good Sony possibility for the market. I mean, it's here. Blue Hank Rogers' company is Blue Batteries. I don't know, Blue Energy, whatever he's got. Blue Ion is marketing that, okay? And one of the things about that great battery is that it's only as good as the software. That you have got to integrate. The connection between that battery and the whole system is the software. And it strikes me that, 2 things. One is that, A, we can write the software here. We don't have to rely on somebody out of Cincinnati. We can write the software here. And B, that you guys are the connectors. Hawaii Energy and energy efficiency is the connectors. I'd like to ask you what you plan to do going forward. You got a 30-year answer, but don't you think that over the next 30 years, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be talking about the software. You're going to be talking about connecting all these parts up, because the net effect of that connection is efficiency. Right?
For the grid.
For the whole enchilada.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, that's a good point. I think there are actions that benefit everyone that may not necessarily benefit the individual. And I think that is the kind of, where do the benefits, get shared? And I think that is the challenge right now. I mean,
but that's where you use an incentive from the cost of the power that you're going to be pulling from the grid to encourage people to change their behavior, make the total grid as efficient as we can make it. So if you make the cost sufficiently low, people will buy more batteries and store it while you can get it for a low cost, and then use it later whenever the cost is too high to buy.
This is the kind of thinking we have to do. And you are in a partnership with the generation side of the equation.
Sure.
But one of the questions is, what are we missing from efficiency now that we need to fill, the puka for in the next 5 or 10 or 30 years, 29 years, pardon me.
I think you mentioned earlier that you can't force people to do things. I think there is one way. One is energy codes. And so energy codes, the state has adopted a more stringent building code, and that will work its way down to the county. So that's one way that needs to be filled. And then again, that's kind of a minimum bar, but it's still a minimum higher than we have now. So that's one of them. And the other one is all the challenges, that whole landlord and the tenant discussion. So if you have an office building here and your electricity usage is part of your rent, your usage doesn't really make a difference. That, and even with the landlord, the rentals, a great majority of the homes are rented. The landlord really doesn't necessarily make capital improvements for the tenant's benefit. That is really the big, and it's not just in Hawaii, but we definitely have to tackle that to get the, usage and cost of that usage tied back to, the people that have influence over making.
So what I'm getting is that as we go down the track, efficiency means reaching out to organizations that could be part of the formula.
Yeah, I mean, we work really with a number of community organizations because as part of our overall goals is equity, customer equity. So distribution of the resources that we've been allocated for these programs to reach those individuals who have paid into the program. And that's not always easy, like Michael was saying. There are barriers that are in place where the owner does not necessarily want to upgrade for a tenant, and so we have to continue to identify ways to either incentivize both parties or, and come up with programs that actually, get through those barriers. And using other community organizations through collaboration and their networks has to be the way to do it efficiently, really.
Yeah, it's not just reaching the consumer or the business, it's reaching organizations that are involved. For example, even an example that comes to my mind, we had a show with them yesterday. It's the Council of Associations of Apartment Owners. There's one organization that reaches out to like 18,000 condos in this state, and they're interested. They like to save money on behalf of all their hundreds of thousands of residents, and so that's the kind of organization I think that's going to be brought into the discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Ray, I'd just like to say. You guys are the stars. You're like the hippies in the formula here. You're the millennials, if you will, because you're always looking for a better way. You're looking for sustainability. It's your mission, and you're going to keep us on track. But you don't have to respond to that, except I'd like you, as a co-star, co-host here, to summarize the discussion and tell us where we're going to go next in other shows on energy efficiency.
Okay. Well, we're going to cover the waterfront on the next 3 weeks shows. We have some interesting discussions coming up with about how we crunch the numbers to figure out what's going on and how we get a better picture of where we can go and do the work and get the easy stuff done right away so we can get on to the hard stuff. And we're going to be talking about our transformational program, a little bit more in depth what Caroline was talking about earlier, how we reach to the people that really need the most help. And they're the ones who can't do it themselves for one reason or another, and so we really have to push harder to get in and help them. We're going to talk more about that. And you know, at the end of the day, we have a whole group of passionate people working towards making the whole grid much better by getting as many kilowatt hours off the grid that don't need to be there, that are wasted today, get them out of the picture so that the rest of the renewable effort can actually be done much less costly for the state. So it's a great mission. We've still got a long ways to go. We walk in offices and houses all the time and still see the old incandescent lights.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work to do. So we're looking forward to continuing that, and you'll be hearing more from our folks and some other people that are in the same efficiency zone that we're in over the next 3 weeks.
Okay, I'd like to offer Michael and Carolyn 1 minute each on our famous camera 2.
Are we allowed to look at this one?
And that one you
Camera
look
two, I
at,
see it,
and there's a picture of a bunch of kids in a bar drinking.
Oh, that's good
And
too.
my question to you is, what message do you want to leave with them, Carolyn?
Get involved. You know, there's a lot of opportunity within your day-to-day life now to recognize the impacts that you can make. So I think that we have opportunities in internships. Reach out to us, especially if this engineering or any sort of technical services are in an area that you would like to pursue, because we have many folks willing to help and push you in the right direction. And turn your lights off.
Michael?
I think, you know, one of the big things is get educated. I think, you know, a lot of the ground that efficiency has lived is to come from the mid-'70s. And I think, you know, when you see the young kids there, we often hear great ideas, a lot of enthusiasm. And I think, you know, catching them up to what has happened so that they can take that using the new technologies, the, you know, social media technologies. We all see all that kind of stuff. Really, we're not the edge that have done that. We can help you technically, we can help you, but I think getting the message out, that peer group comparison kind of thing, you know, that is where it's going to be different. It's going to be the information is going to get there a lot faster if they are the ones sharing it. So.
You guys are definitely at the crossroads. That's Michael Chang. He's the chief, what is it? Innovation architect. Okay. And Carolyn Carl, she's the deputy program manager of operations. And of course, Ray Starling. He's the chief director person. Thank you all. Great discussion. Looking forward to next week.
Thank you, Jay.